November 1944. The air over the Rhineland is a crisp, freezing vacuum. At 25,000 feet, the temperature is -40 degrees. Inside the cockpit of the P-51 Mustang Algebra Angel, Lieutenant David Deke, Thorne is sweating. Thorne is 23, a mathematics major from MIT who dropped out to fly fighters. He sees the world in angles and vectors, but right now, the math is trying to kill him. The mission is a fighter sweep, a roving patrol looking for the Luftwaffe. Thorne is the wingman. His job is to cover the tail of his leader, Captain Miller. But the formation has been shattered by a bounce from a flight of Focke-Wulf 190s. The sky is a chaotic swirl of contrails and tracers. Thorne spots a bandit. A lone FW-190D, the long-nose variant, is diving away, trailing a thin wisp of smoke. It is wounded. It is prey. Thorne makes the classic rookie mistake, target fixation. He shoves the throttle of the Mustang to the firewall. The Merlin engine screams, 1,700 horses kicking the airframe forward. The P-51 is aerodynamically cleaner than the Focke-Wulf. It accelerates like a falling dart. Thorne's eyes are locked on the German plane. He wants the kill. He wants to see the pieces fly off. He forgets the most dangerous variable in aerial combat, closure rate. Thorne is traveling at 450 miles per hour. The damaged German is doing maybe 300. Thorne is closing the distance at a rate of 220 feet per second. In his gunsight, the German plane explodes in size. 1 second it is a dot, the next it fills the entire windscreen. Thorne realizes his error too late. He is coming in too hot. If he fires now, he will fly right through the debris cloud. If he doesn't fire, he will smash directly into the tail of the enemy plane. Panic spikes, the overshoot. It is the death knell of a fighter pilot. If Thorne flies past the German, the roles will instantly reverse. The German will be behind him. Thorne will be the target. Thorne's brain locks up. He can't turn left or right. The German could turn with him. He can't pull up, he'll expose his belly. He can't dive, he'll hit the enemy. In a spasm of terrified reflex, Thorne does two things at once that the manual says never to combine at high speed. He pulls the stick back hard and kicks the rudder. He is trying to climb and turn at the same time, just to get out of the way of the impending collision. The Mustang protests. The G-forces slam Thorne into his seat, but because of his immense speed, the plane doesn't just turn, it corkscrews. Thorne enters a violent, unintentional barrel roll. He is upside down, looking at the top of the German's canopy from less than 50 feet away. He is so close he can see the oil streaks on the enemy's cowling. He expects to fly past. He expects to see the German disappear behind his tail. But the German doesn't disappear. As Thorne spirals around the longitudinal axis of the fight, a strange thing happens to the geometry. By rolling around the enemy's flight path, Thorne is traveling a longer distance to get to the same point. He is running a spiral staircase while the German is running a straight hallway. Thorne's forward velocity relative to the German drops like a stone. He completes the roll, coming upright again. He braces for the impact of 20 cannons on his tail, assuming the German is now behind him. But when he looks through the gunsight, the Focke-Wulf is still there. Thorne hasn't overshot. He hasn't flown past. He has effectively parked the Mustang right behind the German, matching his speed perfectly but with a renewed energy advantage. The German pilot must be terrified. He saw the American hurtling toward him at collision speed, then saw the Mustang execute a violent 360-degree spiral around his fuselage, only to reappear in the exact firing position he started in. Thorne is too shocked to think. He squeezes the trigger. 6.50 caliber machine guns shred the Focke-Wulf's wing root. The German plane rolls over and disintegrates. Thorne pulls up, gasping for air. His hands are shaking. He checks his 6. Clear. He flies home in a daze. He knows he screwed up. He knows he broke the cardinal rule of energy management. Don't get too fast on a slow target. He should be dead. The German should have slotted in behind him and blown him out of the sky. But the math saved him. That night in the Nissen hut that smells of damp wool and coal smoke, Thorne sits with his flight journal. He draws diagrams. He draws a straight line for the German. He draws a helical coil for his Mustang. He calculates the distance. Path A straight line, distance equals rate x time. Path B helix, distance equals square root, vertical 2 plus horizontal 2 plus forward. He realizes that by rolling, he forced his plane to travel 3 times the distance of the enemy in the same amount of time. He didn't use air brakes. He didn't cut the throttle, which would have shocked the engine. He used geometry as a brake. "You okay, Deke?" asks Sully Sullivan, a veteran with eyes like flint. "You look like you're trying to solve a quadratic equation." "I am," Thorne whispers, tracing the loop on the paper. "Sully, I think I figured out how to stop time." Sully laughs. "Just keep your speed up, kid. Speed is life." "No," Thorne says, looking at the spiral. "Speed is just a number. Vector is life." He realizes that what he did, this accidental, panicked roll, was the solution to the biggest problem in high-speed dogfighting, the high-speed overshoot. Everyone feared it. Everyone tried to avoid it by slowing down before the attack, which made them vulnerable to other enemies. But what if you didn't have to slow down? What if you could stay fast, stay invincible, and simply dump the forward travel by spiraling around the enemy? Thorne calls it the displacement roll. The rest of the squadron calls it the drunken corkscrew. They tell him it's a good way to get dizzy and die. But Thorne is a mathematician, and he knows that numbers don't lie. He just has to prove that he can do it on purpose. He has to prove that the mistake wasn't a fluke, but a theorem waiting to be discovered. The debriefing room at Debden Airfield is a place of hard truths. Gun camera footage flickers on the wall, grainy black and white movies of death. When Thorne's film runs, the room goes silent. They see the rapid closure, the terrifying approach. The screen fills with the German cross, and then the world spins. The horizon cartwheels. It looks like the camera has broken. But then the spin stops, and there, perfectly framed, stable and close, is the German plane, the tracers flare. The kill is clean. Major Bull Hammond, the squadron commander, chews on his cigar. He rewinds the film. He plays it again. "You nearly rammed him, Thorne," Hammond growls. "You were doing 450. He was doing 300. You should have ended up in Belgium before you stopped." "I increased my flight path, sir," Thorne says, standing at attention. "I didn't slow down the plane, I just took the long way around." Hammond stares at him. "You did a barrel roll in a pursuit curve." "Yes, sir. It displaced my aircraft laterally and vertically. It allowed me to keep my kinetic energy, my speed, without overshooting the target physically." The other pilots exchange glances. They are stick and rudder men. They fly by feel. Thorne talks like a professor. "It's dangerous, Thorne," Hammond says. "You lose sight of the bandit when you're inverted. If he turns while you're belly up, you'll never find him again." "Not if the roll is tight enough, sir. Not if the vector is aligned." Hammond dismisses him with a warning. "Don't get fancy, just shoot them." But Thorne cannot let it go. He spends the next week flying practice sorties with Sully. They go up to 20,000 feet over the English Channel. Sully plays the rabbit, the slow-moving target. "All right, Deke," Sully radios. "I'm cruising at 250. Come get me." Thorne dives from 5,000 feet above. He builds speed, 400 miles per hour. He comes in on Sully's 6 o'clock. The instinct is to throttle back, to extend flaps, to slow down to match Sully's speed. This is what they are taught. Slow down to fight. Thorne fights the instinct. He keeps the power up. He approaches Sully like a runaway train. "You're coming in too hot, kid. Sully yells, "Break off." Thorne doesn't break off. At 400 yards, he pulls the stick back and left. He initiates the roll. He isn't rolling around his own axis. He is rolling around an invisible point in space, a point focused on Sully's plane. It is a high-G barrel roll. He is pulling 4GS throughout the maneuver. The blood drains from his head. The horizon spins. For a split second, he is looking up at the ocean and down at the clouds. He loses Sully in the glare of the sun. Terror grips him. The Major was right. I lost him. But he trusts the geometry. He completes the arc. He comes down the backside of the loop. And there is Sully, right in front of him. Thorne has burned off 0 airspeed. He is still doing 400 mph, but he has wasted the forward distance by turning it into vertical and lateral distance. He slides perfectly into the firing position. "Jesus," Sully breathes over the radio. "You disappeared, Deke. 1 second you were on my tail, then you were gone, and now you're back. I couldn't track you." That is the second realization. It's not just about stopping the overshoot. It's about invisibility. When Thorne rolls, he moves out of the enemy's rearview mirror blind spot, but he moves so fast and on such a weird plane that the enemy loses situational awareness. It is a baffling maneuver to track visually. Thorne realizes this is the answer to the Luftwaffe's new tactics. The Germans have started using the Me-262 jet and the rocket-powered Comet. They are faster. They boom and zoom. The Mustangs can't catch them in a straight line. But if a Mustang can force a high-speed overshoot, if it can force the German to fly past, and then use the displacement roll to stay in the fight without stalling, they might stand a chance. The test comes 2 weeks later. The squadron is escorting B-17s over Hamburg. Flak is heavy. Black puffs stain the sky. Then the call comes. Jets 12 o'clock. 3 Me-262s. Shark-like, terrifyingly fast. They slash through the bomber formation, their 30 cannons tearing a B-17 apart. "Get them," Hammond yells. Thorne dives. He picks out a jet that is pulling up from its attack run. The German pilot relies on his speed. He climbs steeply, knowing the piston-engine Mustang can't follow him up. Thorne pushes the Algebra Angel to its limit. He cuts the corner. He intercepts the jet's flight path. But he has the opposite problem now. The jet is faster, but Thorne has the angle. He is coming in from the side, a 90-degree deflection shot. The closure rate is enormous, over 600 mph combined speed. If Thorne fires now, he has a fraction of a second to hit. If he misses, he crosses the jet's wake and the fight is over. The jet will accelerate away. Thorne needs more time. He needs to slow the crossing speed without slowing the plane. He commits the mistake on purpose. As he approaches the jet's flight line, Thorne rolls. He rolls away from the direction of travel, spiraling over the top of the jet's path. It looks like madness. He is turning his back on the enemy. But the geometry holds. The spiral lengthens his path. It keeps his nose pointed at the point in space where the jet will be. He comes out of the roll just as the jet passes beneath him. The maneuver has synchronized their vectors for 1 precious second. Thorne hangs in the air, inverted, looking down into the cockpit of the Me-262. He fires. The .50 calibers hammer down through the jet's fuselage. The engine nacelle explodes. The jet flips over, trailing fire and plummets. "I got him," Thorne yells. But the celebration is short. The second jet is on Thorne's tail, and this time the geometry is against him. The Me-262 on Thorne's tail is flown by an expert. He doesn't make mistakes. He doesn't get too close. He sits 800 yards back, outside the effective range of Thorne's maneuvering, and uses his superior speed to close the distance slowly. Thorne is in a P-51. He is doing 400 mph. The jet is doing 500. The math is simple subtraction. Thorne has about 10 seconds before he is in range of the jet's cannons. "Brake left, Deke," Sully screams over the radio. "Standard doctrine, turn hard. The Mustang can turn tighter than the jet. If Thorne turns, the jet will overshoot." But Thorne knows that if he turns hard, he bleeds energy. He becomes a slow target. The jet will zoom, climb, loop over, and come back for a second pass on a sitting duck. Thorne makes a decision. He won't turn, he will roll. He pulls the nose up and rolls the Mustang into a barrel roll to the right. He doesn't cut the throttle. He keeps the energy high. The German pilot sees the Mustang spiraling. He tries to follow, but at 500 mph, the jet's turning radius is massive. To follow Thorne's corkscrew, the German has to pull immense GS. The German fires, but the deflection is impossible. Thorne is constantly changing his position in 3 dimensions. The shells fly wide. Thorne completes the roll. He is now behind the jet, but the jet is still faster and pulling away. The German realizes he has overshot. He pulls up into a vertical climb, using his thrust to escape. Thorne follows. He uses his own momentum to zoom climb, but he knows he can't catch the jet in the vertical. So he starts the rolling scissors. This is the evolution of the mistake. It is a series of continuous displacement rolls. As the jet climbs, Thorne rolls around the jet's smoke trail. He is weaving a helix around the enemy's vertical line. It creates a confusing optical illusion for the German. Looking back, he sees the American plane weaving back and forth, appearing to lose energy, but actually maintaining a high total velocity. The German pilot gets impatient. He chops his throttle to let Thorne fly past. He wants to force the overshoot on Thorne. It is a game of chicken played with air brakes. Thorne sees the jet's exhaust dwindle. He knows the German is slowing down. If Thorne continues his climb, he will fly right past the jet and present his belly to the cannons. Thorne executes the high-G barrel roll attack. He pulls the stick hard into his gut. He initiates a maneuver that looks like he is flying into a wall. He rolls the Mustang 360 degrees in a tight, violent corkscrew. The G-forces hit 6 GS. His vision tunnels. The airframe groans, rivets popping under the stress. This maneuver acts as a massive aerodynamic brake. The sheer friction of the wings biting into the air at that angle dumps Thorne's forward velocity, and this is the key, it keeps his engine RPM high. He is banking the energy in the turn. When he comes out of the roll, he hasn't moved forward relative to the jet. He has hovered. The German, who expected Thorne to zoom past, is now level with Thorne. They look at each other across 50 yards of sky. The German's face is visible, a mask of shock. He cut his power to trap the American, but the American refused to enter the trap. Now the German is slow. His jet engines take time to spool up. He has no torque. Thorne is in a propeller plane. He has instant torque. Thorne slams the rudder. The Mustang pivots. He drops behind the jet, which is now struggling to accelerate. Algebra, Thorne grunts. He fires. The burst rips the tail section off the Me-262. The jet tumbles end over end. Thorne levels out. He is alone in the sky. His fuel is low. His ammo is low. His body feels like it has been beaten with a sack of rocks. Sully pulls up alongside him. "I saw it," Sully says. "I don't know what you call that, Deke, but it ain't in the manual." "It's a displacement roll," Thorne says, his voice cracking. "It's just geometry." "Well," Sully says, "whatever it is, you just outflew the future." The squadron returns to base. The gun camera footage of Thorne's duel with the jet becomes legendary. It is sent to the training command in the United States. It is studied by the tacticians. They realize that Thorne has unlocked the secret to fighting superior aircraft. You don't fight the plane, you fight the vector. You use the roll to control your closure rate, to force the enemy to fly out in front of you, to preserve your energy while dumping your position. It ceases to be a mistake. It becomes BFM, basic fighter maneuvers. Thorne survives the war. He goes back to MIT. He finishes his degree. He never flies a plane again. He becomes a structural engineer designing bridges. He likes things that stay still. But the maneuver doesn't retire. 1968. The skies over Vietnam. An F-4 Phantom, a massive, smoke-belching brick of a fighter, is tangled with a MiG-17. The MiG is smaller, lighter, and turns tighter. It is the zero of the jet age. The F-4 is the Mustang, fast, heavy, powerful. The American pilot, Captain Bo Gentry, is in trouble. He has let the MiG get too close. He has lost his energy. The MiG is on his tail, lining up a cannon shot. Gentry remembers his training. He remembers the lectures at the fighter weapons school, Top Gun. He remembers the grainy black and white films of P-51s fighting Me-262s. When you are fast and he is slow, you win. When you are slow and he is fast, you die, unless you can make him fast. Gentry pushes the afterburners. He accelerates, but instead of running away, he pulls the massive Phantom up and rolls. It is the high-G barrel roll. The MiG pilot, expecting a straight line or a hard turn, tries to lead the target, but the Phantom is displacing. It is corkscrewing around the MiG's flight path. The MiG pilot is forced to pull harder and harder to keep the nose on the American. Suddenly, the MiG is too fast. He slides out in front of the corkscrewing Phantom, the overshoot. Gentry reverses his roll. He is now behind the MiG. He has a tone. He fires a Sidewinder missile. Splash 1 MiG. The maneuver survived. It transitioned from propellers to jets, from machine guns to missiles. The mistake that Thorne made in 1944, the panic roll to avoid a collision, had been refined, mathematically perfected, and codified into the Bible of aerial warfare. Today it is still taught. Walk into a briefing room at Nellis Air Force Base. Watch the F-22 Raptors and F-35s practicing dogfights. They fly aircraft that are controlled by supercomputers, planes that can hover, planes that are invisible to radar. But when the merge happens, when the stealth is gone and it's just two pilots in a visual arena, the geometry hasn't changed. They still practice the rolling scissors. They still practice the high-G barrel roll. They call it managing the aspect angle. They call it controlling the closure. But it's really just Deke Thorne trying not to crash into a Focke-Wulf. The mistake is the mother of the tactic. Every maneuver in the fighter pilot's handbook is a tombstone for someone who tried something else and failed. The Immelman, the Thatch weave, the split test, they are all answers to the question, how do I not die right now? Thorne's legacy isn't the planes he shot down. It's the realization that in the air, the shortest distance between 2 points is rarely a straight line. Sometimes, to go forward, you have to spin. Sometimes, to slow down, you have to speed up. And sometimes, the smartest thing you can do is exactly what looks like the dumbest thing. Rolling your aircraft upside down in the middle of a gunfight, trusting that the math will hold you up when the wings cannot. Deke Thorne died in 1998. He was an old man who loved suspension bridges. He liked how the cables spiraled around the main pillars, transferring the weight, holding the tension. At his funeral, a flyover was performed by a flight of F-15 Eagles. As they passed over the cemetery, the lead pilot didn't do the missing man formation, the straight pull-up. Instead, he dipped his wing, he pulled the nose up, and he executed a slow, perfect barrel roll. It wasn't a show-off move. It was a salute, an acknowledgement of the geometry. The crowd watched the jet spiral through the blue sky, tracing that invisible helix. They saw the power. They saw the grace. But the pilots in the crowd saw something else. They saw the displacement. They saw the defensive posture turning into an offensive solution. They saw the mistake that saved the world. History is often written by the victors, but tactics are written by the survivors. And survival is a matter of learning faster than the enemy. It is about looking at a catastrophic error, an overshoot, a stall, a panic freeze, and seeing not a failure but a variable. Thorne saw the variable. He solved for X, and because he did, thousands of pilots who came after him came home. In the end, air combat is not about the machine. It is about the mind inside the machine. It is about the ability to adapt, to improvise, and to turn the chaos of a mistake into the precision of a victory. If you found this story fascinating, if you want to understand the hidden history behind the machines we admire and the tactics that define them, then you are in the right place. Scroll down and hit that subscribe button. Join us as we dig up the flight logs, the debriefing notes, and the forgotten diagrams of history. We don't just tell you what happened, we tell you how it happened. Don't be a spectator to history, be a student of it. Tap the bell icon so you never miss a briefing. Because the next mistake might just be the next breakthrough.